Hi, this is Elliot Fishman, and welcome to our latest podcast. And this is going to be probably a two-parter on the evolving role of social media in radiology. And I just put this talk together. We do a lot of social media. Obviously, we do Facebook, we do Instagram, we do YouTube, we do the website. We do lots of different things. But I thought I would show you a combination of what we're doing, what we're thinking about, and what other people are doing, and how social media really impacts radiology, both from an education side as well as from a practice side. So let's get started. If you think about it, our mission, all of us, whether you're in academics or private practice, is patient care first, then education and training, and research and discovery. Well, in many ways, social media impacts all three of those missions. If I asked you what is social media, this is per Webster's dictionary. It's forms of electronic communication such as websites for social networking and microblogging through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content such as videos. In Wikipedia, they say that social media are interactive technologies that facilitate the creation and sharing of information, ideas, interests, and other forms of expression through virtual communities and networks. The end of the day, what it is creation of information and then sharing of information. Wikipedia also goes on to say that the users usually access social media services through web-based apps on desktops or download services that offer social media functionality to their mobile devices. And of course, most people probably look at things on their smartphones and tablets. As users engage with these electronic services, they create highly interactive platforms in which individuals, communities, and organizations can share, co-create, discuss, participate, and modify user-generated or self-curated content posted online. That makes the point that when you have a textbook, it's a printed book, nothing changes till you come out with a second or third edition. When you're using social media or web-based apps, things can change every moment, every second. Observers have noted a wide range of positive and negative impacts when it comes to the use of social media, and we'll speak about them. Obviously, anything that can have a positive impact always can have a negative impact. We talk about the fact you can have knowledge on the web. People can also give misinformation. Observers have also seen that there has been a rise in social movements using social media as a tool for communicating and organizing in times of political unrest. Good news and bad news. You can get information out there that can help you during COVID, or you can get misinformation out there during COVID that can hurt you. So anything is possible. So you need indeed to be very, very careful. Now, we looked at some of our work. We did a survey, in a 1-month survey last year, looking at what we looked at and what people looked at. We looked at how people used our different sites. We also noted that the global community, when you speak about the web, it's not limited to the U.S. or to Maryland or to Baltimore. 72% of U.S. adults use at least one social media platform, and there's over 4.6 billion users globally. Now, if we get specific to radiology, what's the opportunity for radiology with this new form of communication? What are the challenges for a field like radiology, which tends to be conservative and typically not a first mover? And what are some of the lessons we can learn from some of the early adapters? And we'll talk about these. Now, the first thing to realize is if you go to PubMed, which is the home of all information that's peer-reviewed, you can see that if I typed in social media in medicine in 2019, there would be 4,399 responses. If I fast forward to 2023, there's 15,000 plus. If I looked at social media in radiology, there was 333 back in 2019. And when I did it the other day, it was more than double at 767. And hey, ours is just on top. That was an accident. But you also can see when you look at the scale how the growth of social media, this is 2023, we're only in our third month, but you can see how rapidly information is growing and how rapidly people are using things. Now, when you think about our patients and social media, what do patients want? They want their medical records. They want access to their imaging records. They want to know about their disease, what can be done, what are the outcomes. They want access to physicians or other healthcare providers when they want them. One of the reasons that telemedicine has become so popular is because it's 24/7. Wherever you are, you can speak to someone. Yes, it's better in person, but convenience and availability tends to be even more important. And people are no longer willing to have medicine practice as it's been for the last century. This is no longer medicine of Marcus Welby. It's medicine where things are changing, where the patient is not downstream from their care, but the patient is a primary mover and involved in their own care. So those are the things we need to think about. And social media can be a way of doing it, but again, as I mentioned, it can be positive or it can be negative. Now, companies have recognized this. Let's take Apple. Apple targets the consumers to expect more from medicine. All the watches, the devices, the measuring, the ability perhaps to store your health records, all of those become very, very important. So now let's flip it all from general to specific in radiology. Patients want interaction with the radiologist. Patients know what to expect from an exam and who's going to interpret it. The ability to get second opinions. People never, no matter who you are, necessarily will trust you. And in fact, due to a lot of things published in articles, a lot of the stuff related to COVID, there's an increased lack of trust even in the best of medicine. Look at the NIH, look at the NCI. All of these areas have taken a real beating. The FDA, things that were assumed to be 100% accurate and people would take them to the bank. Now people are thinking a second time because they did not meet their needs. And there are new providers of healthcare, people you would never think about. Amazon, Walgreens, Teladoc, and many, many, many more. I can ask you the question, do you use social media? If the answer is no, you probably wouldn't be listening to this talk. But also everybody who we deal with on CTisus is using social media. I'm not saying you're using every one of these platforms, but you're using at least one or two. And Facebook and YouTube tend to be the biggest in radiology. If you look at users worldwide, Facebook is number one, 2.9 billion monthly active users. YouTube is number two. And you could see TikTok. You hear a lot about TikTok, including will it be banned in the US? But it has a big following and it's growing very, very rapidly. When you look at social media, it's not just the US, of course. There's some sites like WeChat, TikTok, Douyin that are more specific. In China, though, TikTok has the world branch, which the US is the number one user. And again, these numbers continue to grow. In our survey, 80% of our users said they use social media every day or a few times a week. YouTube was the most popular social media platform for education. Now, remember when we talk about platforms, people will use different platforms for different things. If you're looking at business, looking for a job, you might be with LinkedIn. If you're looking to speak to friends and see what friends are doing, you're probably on Facebook. But YouTube, with its videos, lectures, and the like, number one in radiology. Okay, then you have Instagram, which is basically pictures. Now it has videos as well. And then Facebook. And when you ask people why they use social media, well, learn more about radiology, keep myself updated, participate in radiology discussions with colleagues. About 3/4 of our respondents felt that social media was extremely useful or very useful for radiology education. And about half of them responded they learned more from social media than they do over traditional textbooks or journals. And you see now the journals are pushing the use of social media as well. They want to get their articles out there and their articles discussed so more people read their journal, so their impact factor indeed gets higher. Now, when you look at YouTube, this is from our survey, it's really kind of interesting how YouTube is so widely used and why it's number one. And again, you could somewhat understand this if you want to listen to my lectures, me discuss a case, someone else give a lecture. YouTube is going to be very, very strong. Now, will this continue to stay this way? It depends, because different websites, different social media platforms constantly are changing. Remember, in the old days, Instagram, you could not show videos. Now you can. They're limited in length. Twitter had limited text. Now it has more text. So things constantly change. And so we'll keep looking at what you, our users, want, and do this every couple of years. Now, a challenge of radiology always has been that radiologists, people don't know what radiology is. They're not sure if we're the techs or the doctors. What exactly do we do? Do we take the pictures or read the pictures? Are we really a science? And Gary Glazer wrote this article about the invisible radiologist. This is more than a dozen years ago, but nothing has changed. People still, and COVID has made it worse, and the fact people read from home has even made it worse. People don't know who the radiologist is. This survey, it's from Gary's paper, that most people did not know whether a radiologist was a person who interprets or scans them, or both. Social media allows us to redefine ourselves, teach people what radiologist is and who are radiologists, what we actually do, what are our exams, how it can help them, what's the positive and negative of our studies, what are our limitations, what's our role in healthcare, and provide information to our patients and multiple touch points before and after imaging studies. Also, review studies with patients. Now, again, the problem is these days we're so busy. We all are so busy. But can we do more? Things will have to change to make that happen, but we need to be more involved with the patients. And again, it's a challenge, particularly with people working from home and with people home or in person being so overworked. It's hard to really figure out what we can do. Now, in terms of social media and your own practice, there are many ways to think about it. Radiologist to patient, radiologist to referring physicians, radiologist to radiologist, radiologist to our trainees, whether it's fellows, residents, or med students, and radiology research. For example, recruiting patients. There's been several articles published how recruiting patients with rare diseases can work very well with social media. Article by Whitney Zember a few years back, that's Whitney Fishman Zember, as more and more people use social media for other forms of information, adopting social media as tools for personal health is only natural. People don't separate their health from anything else they do. If they're using the web for other reasons, they're going to use the web for health as well. Now, one of the things Whitney mentioned that's very important is, and we mentioned, there's truth and untruths on the web. I think institutions, organizations, ACR, RSNA, you name it, need to be aggressive and get the correct information out there. We need to be very positive about radiology and radiologists, and we need to be very accurate about radiology and radiologists. We don't want people who don't know the story to be telling the story. And people are becoming more interested in developing specific networks. They know that not every place is good. That's why places like Mayo Clinic have done very well, because Mayo Clinic has such a good name. It's been rated #1 for many years. Other institutions, obviously, the Hopkins, NYU, Sloan Kettering, Mass General, you name it. Those are trusted networks as well. But people are going to limit where they go. And so if you want your hospital to be recognized, particularly in your local community, you're going to have to be aggressive. And this idea about pushing information forward, here was an article we wrote on Facebook, and made the fact that Facebook is embraced by medical professionals. Yes, you could do a lot of what are my friends doing, but more and more posting cases, posting interesting material, posting research, and the like. Facebook has become very, very good for that as well. And it's really not one or the other. And let me just show you some examples. The Mayo Clinic, and we'll use Mayo since they're #1 U.S. News and World Reports. Here's their website, mayoclinic.org. Why choose Mayo? When you need answers, you know where to go. That's their website. And they have Instagram, and you can see those are all lectures by different physicians, by different healthcare providers, and they're #1. They have Facebook, again, talking about patients, talking about research, talking about clinical care. They use Twitter to be where the patients are, talking about information. You can see nice images, things they're doing, research, patient care, patient experience, patients. They are looking at building their brand. And you cannot overemphasize that. And so, again, this radiologist to patient becomes very important. Now, you may say, well, am I involved in that? How do I get started? I'm here to tell you that every radiologist is involved, because from your dues to ACR or RSNA, there's radiologyinfo.org. That was started maybe 15 years ago. I remember I was on that committee for about 9 years. And this is a screenshot from the other day. Basically, it's a resource for patients. Talks about imaging exams, how we do the studies, what we look for, what the patients can expect. It breaks up imaging into CT and ultrasound, X-rays, MR. It talks about adults and peds. It goes through many different topics. You can press a button and look at facet joint blocks or head CT or chest CT. And all of it is written for lay people. Very, very important. A lot of what we write is written for other experts, for other physicians. This website was people were hired who can write just for patients, and that becomes very, very important. And here's just an example about calcium scoring. There's a discussion about calcium scoring. It shows how the study is done. It talks about it, why you do calcium scoring, what we could see, and why we want to do it. And you could see, how is a procedure performed? What will I experience? Who interprets it? Now, you could download everything from radiologyinfo.org and use it yourself in your own practice. You could even put your own stickers on there. You don't need to credit the site, but you should credit where it came from because it's a reliable site. But then you could use it for free. And there's a second site, which is Radiology Info for the pediatric patients. Again, a very important site, and a very important site for radiology. And there's an article Jeff Rubin wrote a couple of years ago talking about Info is a public information portal designed to support patient care and broaden public awareness of the essential role radiology plays in overall patient health. So very, very important. And as it enters roughly the 21st year, it's being redeveloped, always being updated. So it's very, very important. It's a tangible demonstration of how radiologists can engage directly with the global public to educate them on the value of radiology in their healthcare and to allay concerns and dispel misconceptions. Oh yes, by the way, this website, radiologyinfo.org, is also translated into Spanish. We also talk about Radiology Services. It talks about things like screening studies. It talks about other initiatives, Image Gently, Image Wisely. All of you should be committing to Image Wisely every year. Again, a site, ACR, RSNA, ASRT, AAPM, a really nice site for looking at things related to radiation, from safety to patients, to CT, nukes, fluoro, you name it. A very, very important site. And as I mentioned, Recruitment of Patient is another way of doing things. So let's now talk about social media and patient care, about thinking differently. Now, I mentioned you could do this to recruit patients, and that'll work very nicely. But what about expanding our clinical practices and our academic potential? I'll tell you what, let's come back and start here. We've done about 20 minutes so far, and let's come back and do part 2. And I'll see you in a few minutes. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the CTisus YouTube channel. You can also visit us at ctisus.com for even more videos, plus quizzes, pearls, protocols, and oh so much more. We're also in the App Store and have well over a dozen apps for iPhone and iPad, all completely free. Thanks for watching.